You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's The Biggest Loser After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Biggest Loser After Show.
Y'all ready for this?
Yes.
I always want to find a different move than this.
I feel like that's what I've been doing the last few weeks, you know?
Right.
Alrighty, everyone. Welcome. Bing is for doing, and we are doing another Biggest Loser after show for The Biggest Loser Season 14, Episode 10. And I don't know the name of it. I'm your host, James Wallington, and with me is my lovely co-host.
Hey, guys. I'm Lauren Mendoza.
And tonight was Makeover Week on The Biggest Loser Ranch, and it was a very exciting episode, to say the least.
Yeah. Makeover Week is always an exciting week.
I mean, it's hype it up, you know.
They hype it up, and it's the one week that every contestant really looks forward to and aims to get to.
Right. So. I was excited for tonight, and
yes.
There's a lot to talk about. So diving right into it, you know, this episode started off with no introduction. Straight into Makeover Week. They brought the contestants to the Biggest Loser mansion of some sort, where they met Tim Gunn and Ken. I don't know how to
Paves.
Paves.
Yes.
And they were there to greet them. And what were your thoughts on this whole intro?
I was really excited. I love Tim Gunn. I actually cover Project Runway here for AFTERBUZZ. So if you guys love Tim Gunn, check that out too. But I love Tim Gunn. And Ken Paves, I mean, he's best known, I think, for doing Jessica Simpson's hair. And she has really gorgeous hair. So, you know, I think all the contestants were really excited to see him as they pulled up. The best part of just that introduction, I mean, I think they'd be happy no matter who was standing right there. I don't even think they needed anyone standing there to get excited about it. But it was cool to know that they were going to get this and they were going to get it done by the best. So I thought that was really exciting. And then I was even more excited when Tim told the contestants that they weren't the only ones getting the makeover. And I thought they were going to bring back some old contestants. Yeah,
or I thought they were going to bring like maybe a parent or some sort of sibling to get the makeovers with them. But they didn't. No,
they didn't. They brought the child ambassadors, which once they brought them out, I thought, why would I not automatically think of that?
Right.
Kind of makes sense.
So I was excited to see that.
Yeah, I was really excited.
And what I loved about this, too, is because, like, I don't know, the kids usually, you know, are talking to the trainers over Skype. So they're finally here to participate in Makeover Week, which is super exciting. I loved, the thing that stuck out to me the most for this first part of the makeovers was Bingo's reaction to the fashion with Tim Gunn.
Oh, my gosh. He's hysterical.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I loved was Lindsay's reaction when she saw Tim Gunn. I think Lindsay seemed to be the most excited about everything that was happening. And I loved her. She's like, I just can't wait for Tim Gunn to like dress me up. And I know he's just going to be like fabulous. And I just love how she said that because she was so spot on and she knows her Tim Gunn.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for being 13 years old, I was very impressed. And I think she also mentioned at one point, I wish that I could take Tim Gunn back home with me to put in my closet.
Yeah. Don't we all?
I love Lindsay. So they showed everyone going through fashion with Tim Gunn. And what stuck out to you as far as like the contestants' individual fashion and what Tim was trying to do with their look?
Well, I was a little bummed that I felt like they really sped through the makeover part of this entire episode. And I know that's what this is all about. So I feel like in previous seasons, we really focused on them like picking out clothes. We've really seen what they were going to do with their hair and like talking out their plan. So I was a little bummed about that. I loved how Tim acknowledged that Sunny, you know, she's 16 years old, she's mature, and at that age every girl wants to pick out their own clothes. Yeah. You know, with maybe a little bit of guidance from an expert, of course. But I love that he acknowledged that and he let her pick out her own outfit, and she looked like she was doing a really good job. What also stood out to me was Gina's comment. about, Gina's a lawyer, and Tim said that he wanted to, of course, pick something that's professional, but also try a little sexy.
Yeah.
So he picks out that leather skirt for her. And she looked amazing when she walked out in that with that suit jacket that he had buttoned, so it really showed off her waist.
Yeah.
That was my favorite
And I know
part.
we kind of also discussed too, like, over the last few episodes when they're on the ranch, their bodies are pretty hidden over those big hoodies they wear, the big t-shirts they wear, so you never really got to see what they really looked like as far as their form and as they're starting to get the build up. I was floored and loved. Danny and Gina both looked amazing to me.
They did.
And I was so excited to just see the glow and how they just radiated when they looked in the mirror for the first time with that big reveal of getting to look at themselves with this new look. They just were so overwhelmed with joy, and they found this confidence in them, which I just love seeing that kind of stuff on the show.
That's what the show is all about. I think that's why, if you love the show, I think that's why you do, is to see this transformation, to see that kind of breakdown of emotion and that buildup of confidence.
Yeah.
Can I give you a little scoop that I know of that they didn't actually show on the show?
Yes.
Okay, so I was able to look at some of the released press clips.
Right.
So it was up for grabs for the press to use in promoting the show, and I was surprised at how much I really didn't see about this episode, covered by other outlets. But one thing that Gina talked about that I guess, I don't know, maybe somebody saw it on another channel somewhere else, but I saw, she talks about going to court as a lawyer, and she would wear dresses that she couldn't button or zip. Wow. And she would wear her jacket, and in Birmingham, wherever she lives, if it's really hot, people will be like, gosh, it's so hot in here. It's hot indoors. Gina, take off your jacket. But they didn't know, like, she wouldn't do it, and they didn't realize it was because she couldn't actually button or zip her dresses that she wore to court. Wow. And I remember hearing that and thinking, like, that's insane. And then there she is standing there in a leather skirt. And she talks about how she was a size 20 and now she's a size 10. So for me, she just had one of the biggest transformations.
Wow.
Is that not amazing?
Yeah.
I know. I was thinking, they have to use that part. I mean, they released it to the press, so it could have been advertised elsewhere, but I was surprised they didn't actually use that in the show.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised too, especially with Gina's storyline that's kind of been evolving throughout this season. I'm surprised they didn't put that in there either.
I know.
Interesting.
Thought that was really amazing.
I also was very much in love with Jackson's look. I loved those fiery red pants with that cute sweater and that bow tie. I'm a sucker for bow ties.
Yeah.
So I love Jackson's look. And I think another one that really surprised me is Jeff. He is very handsome.
Right. Very
handsome. That smile is just so charming. It definitely is very captivating. Mm-hmm. So I loved seeing Jeff and that smile.
Yeah, the thing about that smile, and I think I said it either last week or the week before, but he's smiling more.
Yeah.
I feel like he's always been really handsome. He's always had this really charming smile, but we didn't see it as much. And just as each episode goes on, you're seeing him smile more. He seems happier. In the beginning of the season, he was always really defensive. Like, we saw him have his, little tiffs with Jillian and anybody that would really push him or challenge him.
Right.
And he just seems so far past that at this point. Like, he just seems really open and willing to do what it takes and positive. And like I said, he's just smiling more. So I noticed that too about him. But
I loved it. And Joe too looked quite dapper as well.
Joe is hot. Joe is a hot man. He looks so good. I'm sorry, he looks so good. He really does. He's just one of those guys that you just see it come off in the face, and you can see how handsome they really are.
Yeah.
And also the same with Jeff, because they're happier. And when people are smiling and they're happier, they're naturally more attractive, and they just look amazing.
Absolutely.
So I was excited for all of them.
Me too.
You know what was making me laugh? You mentioned Bingo. I was cracking up about him because he just wants to live and die in a hoodie.
Yeah.
And like, he can't get past that.
Right.
And so another one of the press clips that I saw that they did not show in this episode was Ken basically talking about Bingo and saying, I need to come up with a haircut worthy of being without a hoodie. Like, that is my challenge. And even Tim Gunn said in this episode that he's going to put dressing a 13-year-old boy at the top of a challenge list because that's one of the hardest things he's done. So that seemed to be their goal, was to get Bingo out of the hoodie.
I also loved how when Bingo first came into that room with Tim was like, I want you to pick out what you would wear from what you see up here. And he's like, all of this is really fancy. And he's like, what do you mean by fancy? He's like, it looks really nice. And then, of course, immediately he goes for this bright blue hoodie. And when Tim had his way with Bingo looked 10 times better, less frumpier. He had this nice, like, classy leather jacket, these great jeans with some high tops, and I thought Bingo looked fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think you should take Tim's advice.
I think you should, because didn't that jacket even have a hood on it, too?
Yeah.
Like, Tim really tried to stay with his style, but kind of class it up a bit.
Yes.
But he looks so cute, and when he walked into his family, I was crying like the entire episode, pretty much.
It was a tearjerker for sure.
Yeah, and what do you think about Lindsay?
Lindsay, I loved her whole excitement to like finally interact with Tim and be in the same room as Tim. She seemed super starstruck. She looked so adorable in that floral pattern dress with those cute Converses and this like denim jacket. I thought it really suited her and her youthfulness, and I loved it. I couldn't help but smile.
Yeah, it was interesting to see her look versus Sunny's look, and they really, dressed them so well for themselves and their personality and their age.
Absolutely.
You're right. Like, I thought Lindsay, she was so cute. She was like bright and colorful and looked all fun and spunky. And then when Sunny walked in to reveal her look to her family, I actually thought for the first time in this entire season, she looked her age. Like, she looked mature and she looked confident.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so cute how both of those girls were really excited to actually cut off their hair. And that is not something that's really exciting for girls that are used to having long hair. I know this. And even for young girls, I think, at that age,
Definitely.
But one thing that I've heard Ken Paves say, actually, and he says it in these press clips that no one ever sees. He said that he thinks it's important that at least once in their life, every woman or girl cuts off her hair, so that you're not defined by long hair.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing him say that and thinking that is so true, because I cut my hair once to my chin, never again, because it just wasn't a good look for me. But I've always had long hair, and when I go to get my hair cut, I'm always really hesitant about, telling the girl how much to cut off.
Yeah.
And sometimes she'll cut some off, and I'll say, okay, a little bit more. Okay, a little bit more. But it's so true, like, how we are attached to that. Sure. And I thought it was really inspiring and just, like, amazing and so unlike young girls to just be like, I can't wait to cut off my hair. Yeah. Like, that's just not normal.
No.
I loved it.
They both looked fantastic, too.
They
looked
so
it really
good.
Defined their face more, too.
Yeah.
So, and I've got to say, I really did like Jackson's haircut. I know I mentioned that tonight, too, when we were watching the episode. I think I personally would never do it. I don't think it would look good on me. However, because of his quirky personality, I thought that quirky hairstyle just was so fitting and perfect for Jackson.
You know what I realized? I think, and maybe this is so known and you guys are going to be like, duh, but they don't let them shave or cut their hair or do anything while they're on the ranch, simply for the shock value.
Yeah, you know what?
I love your reaction.
No, because
hand on hip.
Wow.
No, I'm serious, because these guys were so excited. They were like, I just want to like shave this off, like get rid of this, please clean me up. And I think they were just itching to do that. Like Jackson.
Oh,
hello.
That beard, yeah.
He was like Frumpalicious by the time this episode came along.
Hashtag Frumpalicious.
Hashtag Frumpalicious, and now he's hashtag hot stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was what pretty much summed up our makeovers as far as hair and new fashion styles. It was very quick. I thought it would be longer, be a little bit more insight, but that was pretty much the makeovers.
But it was good.
Yeah.
It was good makeovers. They all looked really good.
Wonderful. Well, for all of you who are tuning in right now, we appreciate you being a devoted fan to our after show. For those of you who are just tuning in and you're new, make sure you check us out on iTunes, rate us 5 stars, give us comments, subscribe to our podcast, let us know what you think of our show, tell us what you would like us to talk more about, tell us who you support and why you support them, because the finale is just around the corner. So I would love to know what everyone's predictions are. So make sure you do that. You can also, if you missed tonight's episode, make sure you check us out on YouTube tomorrow, and you can watch us live in the studio, which I love going home the next, tonight and then in the morning watching our show.
I love to see. No, it's not weird, but I love to check back every few days to see if people have commented.
Yeah, that's
because I really do want to know what they think, and I know that we had a couple really good comments from last week.
We did. Again, Average John, we just appreciate you always tuning in, making sure to always interact with us and comment on our YouTube page. So we appreciate you also filling us in on what happened last week when we had that technical difficulty where we missed 20 minutes of last week's episode. So we appreciate you on telling us that they never showed
Alex had no fear. So we really didn't miss anything.
No. So thank you for filling us in. And also we had a new follower. His name's Chris Mingy. I probably totally butchered that last name and I apologize. But he wanted to let us know that he loves our show and also gave us 2 cents on what he thought about Gina. And I just love that we're able to interact with our fans. So thank you so much.
Definitely. I think I replied actually to both of those guys today. But they both, you're right, they gave us really good insight, and I love it because Average John, at this point, he's like one of us.
Oh,
now.
Definitely.
I mean, keep it coming, because I want to know what you have to think about this episode, and I do want to know what your predictions are going to be in at the end.
Of course.
So,
it's so
I appreciate it. You guys are like extended AfterBuzz family, which I appreciate.
And whoever left us 5 stars on iTunes, you didn't leave a comment, so we don't know who you are, but the mystery 5 stars, we appreciate it.
And it wasn't my mom.
And
I
it
asked
wasn't
her.
my mom. It wasn't me. It wasn't you.
No. So we must have a fan.
Somebody out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our shout outs. Moving forward, we saw that, the other twist with this makeover week is that the contestants got to go to their hometowns and do the big reveal of their makeover to their families and their friends. Anything about that stick out to you from the very beginning?
Well, basically, all of those reveals, I was watching through clouded eyes because I cry every time.
Right.
I mean, those kinds of reactions, just naturally, I just kind of fall to pieces. Like I said, Sunny, I think she just looked the most mature, and she really looked like a confident 16-year-old for the first time.
Absolutely.
So I feel like she was somebody that really stood out to me. Danny was impressive. She was like on a stage somewhere. She had like a whole town in front of her. Which is very
fitting for her now that she, showed us her musical talents last week.
Oh, that's right. Now she's a musician. Yeah. She's got fans.
And she was born to be on stage. She looked so good.
She looked hot.
So hot.
Yeah, and her mom, I think her mom was just so touching. She was so emotional and said that she was so honored to be Danny's mom. And I love seeing that. And I love seeing how, the parents, even Jackson's dad, I remember he commented like how proud he is to be Jackson's father.
Right.
And I think those are the moments that I think they're so touching, but that their approval means so much to these contestants.
Of course, because when they go home, that's their support group.
Right.
They need that love and approval, and I always love seeing the families and friends always get involved with the show and seeing them really be there to support and jump on the bandwagon and hopefully continue this journey with their loved ones. So, well, that was exciting. But after the big reveal, they get a letter from one of their loved ones that's from the ranch. And it was pretty much explaining what the twist and the challenge was for them being at home. The first thing that the ranch and the Biggest Loser, Allie Sweeney, as she said it was from her, challenged them to challenge themselves by losing 5% of their body weight while they were home. And if they were able to do that, they would win immunity. Because this week they would not have a yellow line. And if they don't pull it off, they would be up for elimination immediately. Right. So that was the first challenge. The second challenge was to challenge America, which has been the common theme this entire season. And they were going to send the Biggest Loser contestants to go out into their community to be active and just show everyone at home what you can do to really make a better life for yourself as far as health and nutrition. So what were your thoughts on those twists?
My thoughts on those twists? Well, 5%, that's a huge goal.
Yeah.
So I was automatically worried and thought, I didn't think there was any way that everybody could pull that off. You know, I thought that there might be 2 people that really pull off 5%, because I think it was Joe who was saying, okay, that means I need to lose 14 pounds. Jackson said, okay, I need to lose 13. Yeah. We found out later that Danny needed to lose 10 or more than 9, I guess, so 10. And those are big numbers. And we haven't even seen them pull those big numbers consistently. You know, everybody has those weeks where they plateau. Yeah. So, and then you're at home on top of that. You're not around your trainers. You're not at the ranch. You know, we see them going out to dinner with their families. So I feel like pulling a big number would be especially hard. So I was a little worried when they set that challenge.
Yeah, especially when they kept showing throughout this rest of the episode, all of them kind of falling back into their daily routine with their family and their loved ones. And especially Gina, for instance, she ended up going to her favorite Mexican restaurant, and it's owned by or operated by one of her close family friends. And while she was there, she sat down with her family, and she was very picky about her food order when it came back. And of course, her daughter was like, you should just try one chip. That's it, just one chip. And it was like, no. And I loved what she said, because I think it's a very important lesson that we could all learn, is that you can only be gracious to a certain extent until it could ultimately end up harming yourself. And in this case with Gina, she's like, I've been gracious my whole life, and look where it's gotten me. Right. She goes, I can't be gracious anymore, especially when it comes to my order with food. If I have to send it back, I'm going to send it back. So what did you think about that whole
I thought that exchange? Was so funny. Well, first of all, did you see her smell the chip?
Yeah.
Like she was like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. And then, you know, there's her family saying, just have one, which can I just say, like, I get we don't want them to be paranoid about food. We don't want anybody to be paranoid about food. I feel like it's unhealthy if you're paranoid about it.
Yeah.
But if for somebody in Gina's situation, don't tell her to have just one. If she says no, just go with that. Just be like, okay, don't.
Well, she even said too tonight, you know, like, you know, an alcoholic has a problem with alcohol. Well, she was obese and has a problem with food. Like, why would you throw that in her face and tempt her?
Right.
And that's when I was like, do you think producers maybe were pushing the daughter to be like, you should test your mom tonight. Just test your mom. See what she's going to do.
If they would have to pay me to do that.
Yeah.
Because if producers told me to do that to my mother, I don't know. I'm like, hell no. I'm not going to do that to my mom.
Right.
Like, first of all, you're supporting them. You're backing them all the way. No, I'm not going to participate in this unless you, like, cough up the cash, and then I'll tell my mom that I'm doing it just for you. So, I don't know. That's such a hard situation, but you're right. Gina was so spot on when she said, you know, I've been accommodating my entire life, and look at where it's got me. And you feel bad sending food back, you know, but you have to do it. If you don't do it, then you need to realize what you're putting in your body and all the repercussions. And it's one of those things where I think if you kind of let it slide one time, then it's going to, you know, and the next time it happens, you're like, oh, whatever, not excuses. A big deal. Yeah. And I think if you know, are going to be successful at it, you need it to be a habit.
Yeah.
You know? So I was really proud of Gina.
Me too.
For doing that, because I think that's what it takes, and it's so funny. Just quick story. When I saw her do that, it totally reminded me of myself at one point, because I used to be so picky, like you said, so picky about what I ate and what I ordered, and I would customize my order to the point that I was like changing the order.
Yeah.
And I remember my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, would kind of like roll his eyes at me or be like, you need to make up your mind, or kind of, you know, quick, let's get quick on this, like make it happen. And he supported me, but I remember, you know, feeling kind of bad, like, I'm like, oh, can you like substitute that for this? And I didn't want to be a pain, but Gina really put that into perspective and made me realize that what I did back then was really the right thing to do, and there's no shame in doing it. Do it politely, do it with a smile on your face. If it's not what you ordered, send it back, and you're only really benefiting from it. And you know what? They need to learn to get their order right anyways.
Yeah.
So tough.
Good point. Well, Gina wasn't the only one that had a problem with temptation. And I don't necessarily, she never had a problem with temptation, but temptation was thrown her way.
Right.
Jeff also, he went to a restaurant with a bunch of his buddies, and he was literally smack dab, it looked like, in the middle of this restaurant at the table. And he kept saying all these dishes kept coming around me, like mozzarella sticks and cheese pizzas and, just a lot of greasy fried foods. I was getting hungry just watching.
I know. We're about to go out for some, like, wings or something.
Right.
Like, pass that over here.
Those mozzarella sticks looked good, so I put me in the mood to eat. So kudos to him to, like, not, stand his ground and not eat. And he ended up getting a salad, it looked like, a little nacho salad or whatever. And I thought it was interesting, his friends, of course, kept saying, well, why can't you eat this? Like, what's the problem with it? And then literally Jeff, because he's so educated now for being on the Biggest Loser ranch, he was able to sit there and dissect his friend's plate and say, that has this many calories, that has this many calories, and since that has this, that's not good. This is your total. So I was really proud of all the contestants at their hometown, just being able to stand their ground and really take this challenge and run with it.
Yeah, with Jeff, I thought that was interesting. And I think the thing about his situation, too, is, like, he's guessing. He's very educated, but he's also kind of guessing, like, how much is that burger? What's in that sauce? And that's a scary thing about eating out, is that you really don't know. And all you could do is guess. And chances are usually that it's higher than you can even guess. So that's what the scary thing is. But his friend said something really interesting to the camera. He said, I don't feel like we should have to change what we're eating or change our behaviors around him now because of his new life change. If he's going to come back here, he's going to have to learn to deal with that and live in that environment anyways.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
I could not agree more. And I think you and I both looked at each other like, oh, that was a really good point. I would probably feel the same way. But I think to play devil's advocate here, I think there's to some extent, as a friend, you need to at least be considerate, though.
Right.
And not, bombard him with all these, like, complaints or annoyances. Like, why are you eating that? Like, why are you eating a salad? You know what I mean? Not that they were doing that, but I can see, a bunch of these guys doing that at some point with Jeff. It's just giving him a hard time. So I think there needs to be at least a line of consideration if you're going to have that mentality. Yeah,
like the same thing with Gina's daughter, like saying you could just have one. Like, just don't even do that. No. Like with Jeff's friends, don't even ask him why he can't eat that. He's making the decision not to eat it. What does it matter?
Exactly.
And it's like, I just, if he were eating, I don't know, wings and you were eating a salad, would you be doing the same thing? I don't know. I just think it's an interesting...
I don't really care what people are eating at my table anyway. Great. I'm so glad you're eating and you're satisfying your appetite.
I know.
Like, don't worry about me.
It kind of made me feel like they're doing that because it makes... Like, do they feel guilty about what they're eating?
Sure.
Is that where that comes from?
Probably. Or they're a little jealous that, Jeff... He just kicked some butt on the Biggest Loser ranch and is looking good. Yeah.
Yeah, keep putting that wing in your face.
And then Joe, also, they featured Joe back home when he went to a restaurant with his family. It seemed super fancy. It looked like an Italian restaurant. And I loved, of course, the editing of Biggest Loser. It cut to commercial when he's like, I would love to order an extra large pizza.
Yes, and we all know, because we know the show so well, Biggest Loser editors, you cannot fool us, that was going to be a joke.
That was a joke. Because moments before, he's like, there's the big cheese pizza coming out, and he's like, oh my gosh, I wanted to order it so bad. And I was like, well, of course he's not going to order it.
Yeah, don't we all want to order that?
Come on now.
Usually.
Let's talk about how Joe has an identical twin brother for a second.
I know. That's right. We didn't even talk about that.
You said something funny today. Yeah,
well,
Henry.
Okay, when they're sitting there at the dinner table and going back and forth, there was a point where I'm like, wait, who am I looking at? Because they were kind of cutting quick back and forth at some point, and I'm looking down writing notes and then looking up, and I'm like, who's talking? Who is saying that? Who's on what side of the table now? But they both looked amazing. And the interesting story about that is that, when Joe left for the ranch, him and his brother, I don't know what their numbers were, but if you looked at a picture of them, they were roughly the same size. Yeah. I think his brother might have still been a little bit smaller, but they were both super heavy and overweight. So when Joe left to do this Biggest Loser challenge at the ranch, his brother Henry decided to do it at home. Yeah. And the thing with his brother is he's still at work. He's still working his jobs. He has, I think, like 2 to 3 kids. Regardless, he's a parent. So he was doing it in the real life situation while his brother was back at the ranch. And when they saw each other for the first reveal, it was the first time they both saw each other.
Yeah.
And so...
And they both looked same body shape and everything. It looked like they lost the same amount of weight.
Yes. I
maybe
know.
it's a twin thing. You know what I mean? You always hear that twins usually have this like
mind
special
power
ability with their minds. Yeah, maybe, you know, he just knew what Joe was up to and was like, I need to step up the plate. I need to look good too when he comes home. So you never know.
Yeah, but I thought that was such a great story, and you could see that they're both really inspired by each other.
Exactly.
And I think they are their own best support system.
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah. But that was a funny little episode at the restaurant.
So they showed Jeff, Gina, and Joe having the issues with going to the restaurants and really staying their ground, saying no to all the food that they used to once love and eat all the time. But with Jackson and Danny, it was a different story. They showed them sitting down with Jackson, sat down with his mother, Danny sat down with his father, and they kind of just sat down to have these talks about how, you know, now that they're home, they, as parents, need to help them with stocking the kitchen with healthier foods, and how they were worried about their parents' health, especially Danny with her father, because her father was rushed to the emergency room probably months prior to this Biggest Loser show. But he almost lost his life, it sounded like.
Yeah.
And it had to do with his health and not taking care of himself. And that really scared Danny. What were your thoughts about that?
Well, you know, Danny said something, you know, about when her dad got rushed to the hospital. When the doctor calls your entire family into the hospital room, you know it's not good.
Yeah.
And I think anybody in that situation would think the doctor was going to tell you, okay, say your last goodbyes. This is it. And she mentioned that she thanks God every day that her dad is still alive, and I couldn't agree more. And so for her coming back now, it was important for her to address her dad about his weight. And I just thought it was a really sweet moment. You can tell just how close they really are. And I feel like she addressed it so perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't come off at him as if she's been wanting to talk to him about his weight this entire time and now has the courage to say it. She didn't come off like accusing him or even seem judgmental. She really just kind of came from a place of, you know, I love you so much and I couldn't do this without you. And I want to see you happy. I want to see you healthier.
Right.
And I just want you here. And she couldn't have done it any more perfectly, and he was so receptive to it. It sounds like he lost some weight while she was away as well.
Yeah, it just
so
he wanted to take charge of his life too, being inspired by Danny taking this initiative to make a better life for herself as well.
Yeah.
So
I just thought they had a really cute moment, and you can tell that they too are each other's support, and they're gonna probably continue to have a really good, healthy path because they have each other.
What I also loved too when they went home, the other challenge was they had to be able to bring the community together, challenge America. When Danny was able to put together her little fitness routine, Olivia, the winner of Biggest Loser season 11, was able to come and help Danny out with bringing the community together, which I love. I love when they bring Biggest Loser contestants back.
Yeah.
And just to see, you know, that was only 3 seasons ago, and Olivia still looks fantastic.
Yeah, you know what? I have a feeling that for all of the contestants, maybe not all of them, but definitely for more than Danny, they brought some other winners back. Because I was looking at Twitter, and Jackson tweeted that he said, she didn't get a lot of airtime, but thanks to the beautiful @EmilyJoyFit for helping me with my community workout.
Oh, you know what?
What?
Oh, oh my goodness.
What?
Hold the phone. So I've been talking with Emily Joy.
Okay.
She and I are friends on Facebook. We've been chatting, and she's been wanting to call in because she's like, I'm going to be on tonight's episode, blah, 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 blah. I know. And that makes so much sense. I did not see her once tonight.
Emily Joy, call us.
Call in.
I want to know what you think about
if
that.
Not,
and
next week we'll have her call in and tell us what happened.
Yeah, I would like to hear what she actually did with Jackson, since they didn't really show her much.
Wow.
Either way, good job, because it looked like Jackson's group was working hard.
That is true.
Can we also talk about when Jackson went home?
Yeah.
And the moment where he was actually cleaning out his fridge?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting thing. And moment where he was like looking in it and he's like, oh, I can't eat this, or I can't eat this. They don't have 1% milk. And I felt really bad for his mom.
Right.
Because she's probably so excited to see her son and wants nothing more for like him to enjoy his time at home. So I felt really bad because, you know, she's not as educated as he is in this area. And so it must be kind of hard to have him come back and then kind of look around and be like, well, I can't eat anything here.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I would imagine it to be. And she made this really sweet comment about how, you know, when he was younger, she just loved him so much. And when he was hungry, she would just give him all this food. And she said, sometimes you can love them so much, you love them to death.
Yeah.
And she was crying when she said that. And I just thought, that's so true. And that is such a big part of this obesity problem.
Of course. It was a really tender moment what he shared with his mother. And I loved that he kept stressing to her too, Mom, it is not your fault. There's no one to blame. You're just being a mom and a good one at that.
Oh,
so
yeah. I know moms like that.
Yeah.
Do you know moms like that?
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, that's how a lot of women show love. They feed their families.
Yeah.
So I just think so many people could relate to even that minute of TV today. Yeah. So that was just a good moment.
I loved them all being home. It was really nice to see.
I'm sure they did too.
Together. So that kind of wraps up the whole time at home and the big reveal and all these different challenges that they were faced with. Moving on to the weigh-in. This is when it was the moment of truth for these contestants, if they were able to lose their 5% body fat. Let's talk about Danny. She was the first one up on the scale.
My girl, Danny. I'm just like so in love with her. I just think she's so amazing. Well, they mentioned that Danny, when she first actually got to the ranch, she was at 258. I feel like they've been kind of pushing that number, especially since it's the makeover week, to really show how far they've come. So she gets on the scale, and previously, or last week, she weighed in at 184. We know that she needs to lose more than 9 pounds to make that 5% mark.
Right.
And I was a little worried. I know Danny can pretty much pull off anything, but like I said, this is a big percentage, I think, and you're doing it on your own, which is really hard. But she pulls through and she loses 10 pounds. So now she's at 174 and lost 5.43%.
And she looks fantastic.
She looks amazing.
Yeah, and I think she was really proud that she was able to pull off that number, especially for being home for so long.
I know.
That's awesome. Well, I also want to reiterate really quick that, again, this week, when they were weighing in, there's a lot at stake. If you did not lose 5% of your body fat, you'd be up for elimination. Right. I guess was there a yellow line? They didn't talk about it.
No, they said that there's going to be no yellow line this week. Basically, if you didn't hit that 5% mark, you were automatically up for elimination. So let's say Danny was the only person to hit that 5% mark. The rest of the contestants would be up for elimination, and it would just be whoever gets the most votes. Oh, so there was no yellow line.
That's right. Oh, so someone would have probably just went home just for the lowest percentage.
Well, I think they would get voted because there was no line. There was no line at all. They were basically, let's say 4 people could have been up for elimination, like, and seeing that there's no line, it's just a voting. Okay. It's just based on votes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Jackson was up next, and he was at 250 pounds. And in order for him to win immunity this week, he had to lose at least 13 pounds. And luckily enough for him, with all his hard work back at home, I mean, they showed him busting his butt on all the workout equipment back home. He was able to pull off 15 pounds. Lost 15 pounds, which brought him down to a total of 235. So he also, like Danny, was immune.
Yeah, he lost 6%. That's amazing. Can you recall, maybe not, but can you recall how much, like, what's Jackson's biggest number? I feel like the biggest number that I can think of is like 13 pounds. So this to me just sounded like his biggest weigh-in, right?
I think it was. Because remember how every week it just seems like he just kept getting like 4s and 5s. I think 8 or 10 was probably his biggest.
No, I think he lost 13 at one point. I almost think he might have lost 13 on 2 weigh-ins. I know he's pulled that number, and then he like went down to 2 pounds.
Yeah.
So he's really fluctuated. So I really didn't know what to expect with him. So that was exciting. So then we have Joe, the hot 40-something-year-old. Joe weighs in. He came to the ranch at 261. We know that he's the first contestant to hit the 100-pound mark. And last week he was at 235. He said he needed to lose 14 pounds. And it was really cute because when he was depending on his brother to show him, like, how to work out at home, you know, because he's so used to being at the ranch with the trainer. He's like, I need my brother now. His brother said, you need to lose 14. Let's beat it. Let's lose 15. You know, let's aim 1 pound higher. And sure enough, Joe, I was looking at the wrong one. Joe lost 17 pounds. he like blew that out of the water. In total, he's lost 120 pounds. He lost 6.51%.
Which is exciting. I mean, so far, everyone's bound to plateau, but this week it seemed like everyone just excelled what they were expecting to lose, which was really exciting. Up next was Jeff. And Jeff, kind of talked about how he wasn't sure about how he was going to do. And, of course, when they showed the B-roll or, like, the music video montage of them working out, they showed him, and it didn't seem like he was really as aggressive as the other contestants. So I wasn't entirely sure if he was going to be able to pull off a big number. He had to lose a total of 15 pounds in order to be immune this week. And from 295, he was able to lose 19 pounds and would add a total to 276 pounds, which... Of course, Jeff is now immune.
That was amazing. Just like you, I mean, I think we were thinking the same thing. Okay, so he's working out in his home gym, which I don't know. I personally feel like working out at home is so much harder than actually going to a gym. Like, it just is not motivating for me. So I really had my doubts. And speaking of Jeff, did they show him like working with the community? Like, I can't even really remember it.
I don't really. Oh, yeah, he did. It was in the gymnasium with a bunch of students. And remember, he was wearing the headband over his ears.
Right.
And it's like, why is his headband all Kitty Wampus? Hashtag Kitty Wampus.
Okay, so he did. Okay, good. So, yeah, I was questioning that. So that was the shock of the night for me.
My shock was being so nervous about Gina. I was so nervous. She was the last one to get up on that scale. And I kept saying she's a Southern sassafras. I just love her, adore her. I was nervous.
Well, you were not the only one nervous. I was nervous, and Gina was nervous.
Yeah.
Gina made us nervous because before Gina even stepped on the scale, Allie turns to her and is like, "What are you thinking, Gina?" And of course, she's like, "I'm really scared. I don't know if I could do it at home, and I'm not ready to go home yet." She's already like campaigning for herself. She's already saying like, "I can't go home yet. I'm not ready." Almost thinking that she's gonna fail. That's kind of what it looked like to me. Like, she was almost talking like she was doubtful to me. So I was worried because I don't want to see Gina fall back into that pattern. Like, I feel like she's come so far and she looks so amazing and she seems so confident that I don't want to see her start doubting herself again or getting so emotional in it. So I was worried too. And when she got up there, gosh, is it my turn to say what Gina? Oh, it is. Oh, so she goes up there, and at this point, it would be an automatic elimination situation if she doesn't hit that 5%, because she would be the only one that didn't hit it.
Yeah.
So that just added to the nerves. And as we always talk about this fantastic editing of The Biggest Loser, they get her up there. They say, okay, you weighed in at 173 last week. Your current weight is, and then they show her reaction with her face in her hands, and they cut to commercial. But luckily, it was a happy reaction, and she lost 10 pounds. She needed to lose 9.
Right.
So she just made it, lost 10 pounds, now at 163, and lost 5.78%. Yay. So all the contestants won immunity. I feel like that's the first time we've ever seen that.
Yeah, because they were talking about, Dovell even mentioned on last season, Chisholm, when he was one of the contestants, he was on the show with his father. It was that week where, everyone who could lose a certain amount of body fat or percentage, they would be immune. He was the only one of all the remaining contestants that was not able to pull off a good enough number to be immune and stay on the ranch. And I remember that, like Delvette said, nobody had a dry eye in the room. It was a really hard moment to watch on The Biggest Loser. So this was a complete turnaround and a way to, rebuttal from last season. So I was really excited that they were all able to be immune.
Yeah, that was really exciting because I wasn't expecting that either.
No.
I was thinking, okay, somebody's got to go home.
Right.
Something's got to happen.
But it raises the stakes for next week.
Yeah.
Allie even said at the end of tonight's episode, now next week, when you all weigh in, there's going to be 2 lines. There's going to be a yellow line and there's going to be a red line. And whatever contestant falls under the red line automatically is sent home. Then the 2 that fall below the yellow line will be up for elimination, but won't be decided by the contestants, but rather the people in the audience and live at America's Vote at the finale. And so that raises the stakes much, much more. And so I'm really excited to see how these events unfold. Because I know next week they're going to have it to be continued with the 2 people on the red line, because the finale is not until 2 weeks
So then
from
they
tonight.
don't announce who that contestant is until the actual finale.
Yeah.
And our votes count. That's
I'm
exciting.
excited
I'm
about
voting.
that, especially since we've been so invested with this season.
I'm voting.
Well, let's do little quick predictions before we wrap up.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Wonderful. All right, so now there's only 5 contestants remaining in this game. We have Danny, Joe, Gina, Jackson, Jeff. If you had your ideal dream team of 3 people left in the finale, who would those 3 be?
That was not the question I was expecting to answer right now. My ideal dream team is going to be Danny, Gina, and I'm going to go with Joe because he just is working so hard.
Yeah.
And to take it a little further, because what I thought you were going to ask me was who would I predict at this point could be the winner. I almost want to say Joe. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about him, but he just kills it. And Allie mentioned that, you know, Gina remains the contestant with the highest percentage of weight loss so far for this season.
Yeah.
But Danny and Joe are trailing her by 1%.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, it's really anybody's game.
Of course.
But I don't know what it is. Joe can just pull off these insane numbers, and I can see him coming into the finale and just blowing us away.
I agree. I mean, it's anyone's game at this point, and that's what makes it so exciting. For me, my ultimate dream team, who I would like to see in the finale, of course, Gina, because she's originally Team Bob. Danny, because I love her, and I've loved her progression and her just perseverance through this entire season, being a lone ranger for the white team. If I had to pick a third, I would have to say Jackson. It's so tough,
you were going to say that.
But I have to say Jackson just because I appreciate his spirit, and he's been so positive and fun and just seems so aggressive and such a go-getter.
Yeah.
So I would love to see those 3. That would be my ideal 3. If I had to pick a winner, surprisingly, I would say Jackson, too.
Really?
I do. I think there's just been so much excitement about Jackson, and everyone seems to love him from just what I've been reading online. I would love to see Jackson win, and I can see him actually winning it all.
Yeah, I would love to see them all win.
Well, before we wrap up tonight, I want to make sure that you all know about this Adventures of Serial Buddies, which is a film produced and directed by Maria Menounos. And you can check out the trailer for that on YouTube. It's going to be a fantastic film. It's going to be opening in select theaters this Friday, March 8th, till next Friday, March 14th. So check it out. See if it's in the theater near you. Make sure you get tickets. It's going to be an awesome, good time. And thanks for watching tonight. I'm your host, James Wallington. You can find me on Twitter at James Wallington, WALLINGTON, and on Instagram at Mr. MR James Wally.
And you can find me on Twitter at @low_Valles, VALLES, or at Instagram, which I'm on much, much more, at @lowvalles.
Yay, see you next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.